So, is Wicked Part 1 an Oscar contender? Or is it a poorly lit, badly color graded snooze fest? Well, that's complicated, but we're here to answer that question for you. I'm Cory, that's Shane. This is Movies Good, Internet Bad. And in this video, we're talking about our overall thoughts on Wicked Part 1. We'll dive into some of the details, and then we'll go a little bit further into its Oscar chances. Shane, how are you today, sir?
I'm good. I like our color scheme.
Yeah.
We're really on theme for today's review.
Yeah, I'm green, so I guess that I'm defying gravity, and you're pink, so you would be the popular one out of the two of us, if we're
I
being
am
honest.
Schlinda, and you are Kelphaba.
Sure, why not? Whatever. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so already. We are a celebration of cinema uploaded to the place that hates it the most. Like this video, click the notifications bell, all the YouTube crap. But let's dive right in. This is a Broadway musical. Did you know that, Shane? That
Are
this
you
is
sure?
adapted from a Broadway show, a very popular one. I am not a musical person, so this is going to be a real hoot. But it was directed by John M. Chu, who, according to my notes, is famous for gems like G.I. Joe Retaliation and Now You See Me Part 2.
No,
Yeah,
didn't
did you
he
know that?
do?
Step
Didn't he
Up
do
Revolution,
Crazy
or
Rich Asians?
he did do Crazy Rich
Yeah,
Asians.
he
That's
did.
what he kind of
Okay.
broke out for. He did In the
Yeah,
Heights too.
come
But
on, can't sell him too short.
sure we can. This is our show. Whatever we want. The movie stars Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, and then a bunch of other people who are nowhere near as important as the two of them in the movie. It features original Broadway music by Stephen I See Your Schwartz is As Big as Mine, and it has an original score from John Powell, who's famous for the How to Train Your Dragon films, as well as Solo and Star Wars Story. So, Shane, I'm going to let you kick it off, man. What are your overall thoughts on Wicked Part 1, the 2 hour and 40-minute Act 1 of the 2-act production?
Yeah, so it is long. It didn't feel long to me. I thought it paced itself pretty well. I've seen the Broadway musical. You have too, right?
I have,
Yeah.
which is a rarity because I don't see many of those.
So I've seen it once, saw it on Broadway, and enjoyed it. I think I'm like most people in that, like, Act 1 is far better than Act 2. I barely remember what happened in Act 2. Act 1, though, is like all the memorable songs and stuff. And that's what this movie covers, which is, I think, the better half of the story. If you haven't seen the play, I won't spoil Part 2, but obviously they're doing a second movie, especially after this one is making $1 bajillion. So
this one has been pretty popular, as the song would say.
Yes,
it's going to easily crack $1 billion.
No easy. Yeah. I would say the two leads are perfectly casted. Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo are incredible in this. Their chemistry is good. Their singing is good. That was what they needed to nail, and they did nail that. So I did enjoy that aspect of it. I don't think it looks very good, and I think that's a common complaint. If I had my eyes closed, I think I would enjoy this movie a lot more because the voices and sound and everything is excellent. But it's just like, I thought the CG characters didn't look good. I thought the cinematography was not great. Everyone is oddly backlit. John M. Chu has never seen a key light in his life, I guess. They do not like lighting characters' faces. And it was distracting. But overall, like, I think they did this about as good as you could have done. Like, the musical is so popular, no pun intended. One of the biggest hits on Broadway of all time. And it had to live up to that, and I feel like it did for the most part.
Okay, I will agree with you on most of that. I think the biggest strength of the movie is the two lead performances.
Yeah,
they're excellent. There's no arguing that. Even if you came out of that movie thinking that it was a stinking pile of dog shit, you couldn't fight that those two were real good.
Yeah.
I loved the huge practical sets that were used. Obviously, there's a good deal of CG set extension in certain scenes, but for the big ones that matter, like the courtyard of the university and all those places, big, like 50 to 60 foot tall, real practical sets. Universal spent a lot of money on this movie, which makes a lot of sense because they probably knew that there was going to be a healthy return on it with its popularity and whatnot. So I thought that was great. while you mentioned the lighting and everything not being great, I did think that the direction and the blocking and knowing what they wanted to do during all the musical numbers, I was paying attention to that stuff more than I was the songs in some instances, because I was like, man, how do they time that so that way when I think Jonathan Bailey is his name, the actor who played Fiyero, he jumps on a table at one point, and right when he jumps up, a book lands right on the table and he slides across it on his foot. And you have to get that right. You know, it probably took a couple takes or whatever, but
all the choreography was good.
The timing and everything. And, you know, when you're doing a stage show, you choreograph so that everybody's doing their thing and there's a big audience that's all looking at the same thing. With this, you have to capture that with a moving camera, which I think presents a wide variety of difficulties that are really not easy to achieve. And I thought they did a really tremendous job with all of that. What I did not care for too much was the color grade. No one's going to give a shit about this except for movie people, but it's a riff on The Wizard of Oz, which is an extremely colorful movie. It's one of the first films to really embrace Technicolor, right? And if you go back and watch the 1939 movie, as soon as Dorothy leaves the house and she's in Munchkinland, and then they go, everything is colorful. The sky is blue. The castle is green. All that. In this, all of those things are there, but it's like they turned down the saturation a couple of clicks. And I can't for the life of me figure out why they would do that.
The quote in the article, the interview that John M. Chu gave was like he wanted it to feel more grounded and real, which makes no sense.
I'm going to go on a tirade here now that you mentioned that. One, the main character is bright green. So reality, I don't know. There are flying blue monkeys in this movie. And everybody sings to each other for the entire thing, which is not grounded in reality either. I mean, maybe there are some people on this earth that do nothing but sing to each other all the time, but typically we just talk. So I find that argument completely null and void. If you're doing fantasy, this is very much fantasy, crank up the color, man. Like, whatever happened to the color black?
I kind of wonder, I kind of wonder if the color grade wasn't his call and he's just covering for it. It feels like most movies nowadays have that look, which it's just not very colorful, flat, very, very raised blacks. Like, it seems like most movies do that. I don't know exactly why, but there's some sort of production pipeline where they do that. And I wonder if he didn't really have much say in that aspect of it.
Yeah, it's always a possibility. They could have told him, hey, you're here to direct, capture it, we'll take care of the rest, sort of thing. I don't know.
But I remember Crazy Rich Asians being pretty colorful. I've seen it once, but it's been years, so I'd have to go back and look. But it's not a very pretty movie, unfortunately.
Yeah, but so the color grade is one thing, and it drove me nuts the whole time. The other thing that you mentioned is the key lighting and the backlighting thing, right? So to provide an example of what that is, I have a ring light that's right above my head that we use when I record this show that illuminates my face, and it makes sure that you can see me and what I'm doing. There's a light directly behind me that currently is green, but it's usually like a regular color. But if I turn off my ring light, this is what you get. You get a flood of light that's coming in, and then the rest of me is kind of covered in shadow. Obviously, this is a little bit of an extreme circumstance because the Wicked movie doesn't 100% look like this. But there are a lot of scenes where a lot of the characters are just very, very much steeped in shadow. You can't really make out half their faces. And sometimes backlighting is great. It's a wonderful artistic tool for the correct shot. But when the entire movie is captured that way, it starts to lose a little bit of its luster. So that's kind of where I fall on that. So from the technical standpoint, not my favorite. Like, it ain't Dune Part 2. I'll say that much, right? No. Greg Fraser did not shoot this movie. Aside from that, the only other thing that kind of got to me is the big showstopper numbers are so good, right? Like, so when they do Popular, it's fantastic. And when they do Defying Gravity, it makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up.
Yeah.
In between those, you really feel the runtime. I did, at least.
You did?
I could not wait for some of that stuff in the middle to just move on.
Gotcha.
You know, and it's one of those things where the highs of the high parts are so high that it makes the lows of the low parts feel even lower by comparison.
Gotcha.
And that's just kind of where I sat on it. I'm not much of a musical person. Popular, Defying Gravity, I thought were completely outstanding.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff in between, I was just like, all right, we get it.
See, I enjoyed. I didn't. That didn't bother me as much. I also enjoyed Dancing Through Life that Jonathan Bailey did.
Is that the one that had the spinning
yeah,
room? Yeah,
I thought that was pretty creative, and I thought that he was awesome in that role as Fiyero. Does a really, really good job of being charismatic. My other major complaint was I think Michelle Yeoh was horribly miscast, and her one song is like spoken.
Yeah, her and Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum kind of talks his way through a song.
Yeah, but I think that kind of works for that character.
Sure. And when he's not singing, he's fantastic because he's always fantastic. And what a that's a really good casting decision, having him be the Wizard of Oz. That worked really well. But yeah, Michelle Yeoh, coming off of doing something like Everything Everywhere All at Once, this might not have been the job for her, but whatever.
What can you do? And I think she was in Crazy Rich Asians.
I believe so.
Pretty sure she was. So they've already got that connection, and so it's like you see a lot of directors that'll do that, where they'll cast people they've worked with before in roles in their bigger movies as they go on, right?
One casting that surprised me. So before seeing the movie, there were a bunch of podcast clips that had circulated on the internet with Ariana Grande and Bowen Yang from SNL. And all of a sudden he's in the movie.
Yeah.
He's like one of Glinda's like worshipers or whatever.
Right.
I was dying of laughter every time I saw his face, because I was like,
he was very good.
How thrilled must he have been to be in? Like, he looked so happy to be in that movie, and I thought that was cool.
No, he was good. I think Peter Dinklage did pretty well as Dr. Dillamond.
Yeah, Goat Professor, right?
Yeah. The other like insider baseball thing, you probably know this, but Ethan Slater, who plays Bach, is Ariana Grande's boyfriend in real life.
Yeah, which talk about punching up. Good Lord. Good for him. Good for him.
I thought it was funny that like in the movie, he plays the like awkward side character that would never ever get to date Ariana Grande, but in real life he's dating Ariana Grande.
They are a thing, which is certainly something. Going back to Peter Dinklage, he's just got a terrific voice.
Yeah, he does.
Like, he would have a future as a voice actor alone if he wanted it.
Unless he's in Destiny. Have you heard that story?
No.
There's a video game that came out several years ago called Destiny, and Peter Dinklage was the voice of the robot in it, and his voice acting was so bad that years later they would replace his voice acting with another actor. Yeah.
Wow. No kidding.
It was like I guess he was trying to do robot, and it came off as monotone the whole time, and it's pretty funny.
How did you feel about the very on the nose cameos of the original Elphaba and Glinda?
I mean, you got to do it, I guess.
do you? Because you're the cameo hater here.
Yeah, but I feel like that's more of like especially in Broadway, it's kind of like a celebration of what came before, or like you're honoring them
kind of thing.
It's more of like an honor, and like they're not taking too much credit for themselves. They like to give the credit to the original cast and the original songwriters in the movie very briefly as well, as one of the like the castle guards or whatever.
Yeah, it's basically a prison.
But it's kind of like a culture, right? The Broadway culture, where you kind of like honor the original musical and make sure that you kind of revere that rather than trying to like say you're better than it, kind of thing.
Okay, that's fair. I will say, speaking on that, I listened back to the original Broadway recording.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
And then compared it to what I saw in the movie. And I think that the new singing is much better than the old singing. I think
it's just different.
Especially Defying Gravity. Cynthia, she's got some pipes, man.
She does. She's an incredible singer. I think another part too, though, that you have to remember is that they have unlimited takes to do it.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Whereas like the live recording, they got one shot. And so But like obviously Idina Menzel is a completely amazing singer too, with all of her work in Frozen and everything
and
like
Uncut
that.
Gems.
So,
Let's talk about that, where she doesn't sing at all.
Yeah,
my favorite role of hers.
I forgot about
just
that.
love that.
Yeah,
yeah, she's very good in that movie too.
Adele Dazeem,
and what Kristen? What's her last name?
Don't know. Couldn't tell you. I'm not I'm not a big enough. The Broadway fans watching this are gonna rip our hair out.
I did notice that someone posted on the internet that this is part one of a 2-part story, and the first line of narration is "Let me tell you the whole story."
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, and then there's another scene later on in the movie where Peter Dinklage's character is getting like dragged away by people or whatever, and he's like, "You're only getting half the story," and I was like, "You're right, we are."
I missed that.
But just silly, stupid observations from a person that doesn't care much for musicals. But I mean, let's get into the real question here. We both shared our thoughts on the film. Oscar season is right around the corner.
Yeah.
If you would have told me 6 months ago that this Wicked movie was going to be in contention for anything Academy Award related, I'd have been like, yeah, maybe, probably not. But now it seems like that's kind of an inevitability.
Yeah.
I personally think, I wrote down what I think. The Best Picture, since they take 10 nominees, if they only took 5, I would say maybe not. But since they take 10, I think there's a pretty good shot it's going to get nominated.
Oh, it'll definitely get nominated.
Best Soundtrack.
Yeah.
Maybe, because it depends on if it's like score or soundtrack.
True. I don't know how the rules work for that.
Best Actress is a pretty stacked category this year. So I think Cynthia has a good chance of getting a nomination. Maybe not the best chance of winning. But I think that Ariana Grande has a very good shot of getting a nomination and possibly a win.
Yeah.
Because they're going to campaign her for supporting actress.
Yes.
And Cynthia for lead. And then I think there's a very good shot that like every technical category around like costuming and all that kind of stuff has a pretty good shot. But you're an award season fanatic just like I am. I'm curious to hear just where do you think this is going to fall, since you've seen some of the movies that are up for contention and whatnot. So
I mean, it's weird because what I think like is on artistic merit should win and should get nominated is not always how things shake out. There's a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of compromise involved too, where it's like, if you're pitting 2 movies against each other, then there's this third movie that's kind of hanging out there. And it's like, well, just throw it in there. That's how you get the Green Books of the world, right? It's like, everyone liked that one. Okay. So we'll throw it in there as Best Picture winner.
Can't believe that one.
And it's a Hollywood musical. It's a classic musical. Hollywood loves their musicals. La La Land won a bunch. It's gonna make a ton of money, so it's good for them, like viewers wise, if Wicked wins a lot of awards, because a lot of people have seen those movies. This past Oscars, it kind of worked out that way too, how Oppenheimer won a bunch and it too was a success, whereas normally like
and Barbie
something like
also.
With sorry,
Barbie too,
Barbie,
lots of nominations and all that because of the popularity behind
it. But you might get something like Parasite, where a lot of film lovers think absolutely that is the best movie of the year. I did too, but a lot of people just didn't see it, right? A lot of people were mad that this small Korean movie could take over and win all the Oscars and blah blah blah. So there is sort of an incentive for something like Wicked to get nominated for a ton of awards and maybe win them, so that at the end of the day, the Oscars is it's a marketing play. So
answer me this though: do you think that Cynthia Erivo would have any shot in the world beating Mikey Madison's performance
at winning?
Yeah,
I think she has a shot to.
Really?
Whether I don't think the performance is better.
Okay,
but I think the way things work, you can't count out anything from this movie.
Okay. Fair. I'm really curious to see how it pans out, because the Oscars are weird like that, right?
Yeah.
Like you're going to have a movie like Wicked, which probably cost somewhere in the realm of $200 to $250 million to make, and it's going to go up against a movie like The Brutalist, which cost $10 million to make and is an entirely different thing, you know, and it all comes down to the whole idea of art being very subjective.
Yeah.
You know?
When is The Brutalist coming out, by the way? Is that
Brutalist
soon?
comes out Christmas week.
Okay. You know, I wonder if that one's almost going to get kind of lost in the shuffle. But maybe it's late enough that like it gets a hype campaign late. But, you know, something like Dune, a lot of people are talking about like forgetting that movie existed.
Yeah.
Because it was in February, right?
Yeah. So, and it came out so early in the year.
Yeah.
That a lot of times movies that come out that early lose their momentum entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's the opposite, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I think came out in March or April and carried all the way through to the next year.
That was pretty surprising.
Everything, you know.
Yeah.
But that's a special film that only comes around once every so often. But I guess you could say the same thing about this, because when was the last time there was a major, like massive Hollywood blockbuster musical film? You know,
probably La La Land, right?
Yeah, but like that wasn't adapted from a big Broadway play.
No. I mean, before that, it's Chicago. Yeah, I mean, Chicago won. So
sure, yeah.
So that's probably the last one that.
And that was what, 2000, 2001, something like that.
I mean, Les Mis came out and that got nominated for a bunch, but I think most people thought that movie was not very good, and it wasn't really. I don't think it was a massive success. Maybe it was, but you know, this is like the perfect recipe. Popular Broadway movie, really well reviewed and received, made a ton of money. Like it's just kind of like a recipe for Oscar success.
Yeah.
But I don't think it should win like direction or I hope, or picture.
If this gets nominated for Best Director and Dune 2 doesn't,
I might.
I've seen
some lists that do
Los
that.
Angeles and or wherever the Academy is based.
Yeah.
And just burn it all to the ground. No, I think the other thing to take into consideration for a Best Picture win, this is only part one of a two-part story. Famously, the Lord of the Rings movies, Fellowship didn't win, Two Towers didn't win, but Return of the King won because it was the closer.
Yeah.
Who knows, right? You could say the same thing about Dune and Dune Part 2. I don't think Dune Part 2 is going to win Best Picture, but it is technically the end of the novel that he was, you know, doing the adaptation of. So it's really hard to say.
What's funny is that I think Part 2 of Wicked is not good. And
well, I mean, in stage form, you obviously haven't seen the movie yet. So,
but like, even the songs are not nearly as good. So like, it's going to be tough. I don't know. I don't want to spoil too much, but like the second one feels much more of like the prequelitis type of stuff. Whereas part one,
right?
And part one feels like part two is more like alternate history Wizard of Oz. And part one is more like, you know, backstory and prequel, like actual character work.
You think there's a chance that part one might end up being a better film out of the two?
I'd say almost no question
because of the material.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one this Oscar season. There's a lot of movies that are there to talk about, and I think this one just kind of came in, just dropped a smoke bomb into the whole thing. And
I didn't expect it to be good. The trailers didn't look great, and it's strange. They were barely marketing it as a musical at all.
Well, apparently that's the new trend in Hollywood, is that you don't tell people that something's a musical.
Yeah, it's like Wonka.
They're sitting in the seats.
Yeah. Wonka was the same way.
Yep.
Kind of like a musical, but you would never know until you saw the movie.
Yeah. There was one other one recently too that did the same thing. I can't remember.
Joker?
Yes.
Yeah.
They were even outright saying, well, no, it's not a musical. We use the songs as a way to further the story. And everyone was
like, so it's a musical.
I don't know why they're so afraid of that, especially after, you know, this movie came out and just did gangbusters box office. But
I will say that it's really funny when you watch a movie like this with all of the Broadway talent in terms of like the songwriting, and then you watch Moana 2, where they did not get a bunch of Broadway talent to do the music, and it just falls super flat. It's interesting because I don't know if you saw Wish, that Disney movie. It was not good either, and it was also not Broadway musical talent. But like all of the other ones, Frozen was the duo from the Book of Mormon.
I saw that a couple
And
weeks ago. The Book of Mormon.
did you? Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's great.
It was hysterical. It was very
Yeah, but the two songwriters from that movie or from that show went on to do Frozen, and
no
that's
kidding.
also the connection with Josh Gad, because
Oh,
Josh
that makes
Gad was
sense.
originally
He's the
in
second lead in Book of
correct,
Mormon.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, and then you look at Moana, and that's Lin-Manuel Miranda,
The
and
first
you look
one,
at
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
the first one. The second one is not. And then like Tangled is I think Alan Menken again. And so it's like if you look at all of these classic Disney movies, they went and they got Broadway talent to do all of their songs.
Mhm.
And that's why they're so good.
Sure.
And then lately they have not been poaching Broadway talent to do their music, and it's really fallen off.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, Encanto is also Lin-Manuel, so like,
yeah, he's kind of like their flavor of the month, huh? Because
yeah.
he did stuff for Mufasa also.
Yes, he did. So I'm interested in that too, because that should be all original work from him.
Yes.
Because they can't copy the Lion King songs, like
right. Yeah, the Tim Rice, Elton John stuff.
Yeah.
And Barry Jenkins directed it, which I don't know what to think of that movie. They played the trailer for it before Wicked when I saw it, and I was just like, I don't know, man.
It feels interesting because they could very easily fall into that trap of like, actually, Scar is not that bad, and then you watch the Lion King and you're like, well, he's kind of bad.
Which is kind of funny because that's exactly what Wicked is.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good point. Yeah, maybe if they do it well. But yeah, we'll see. Like I was saying to you separately, I think I'd be much more excited about that movie if it was animated and not
like
the live action atrocity.
Yeah.
Like the 2D animation. I know they don't have that studio anymore, but like, figure it out, because if you made like an actual Lion King prequel 2D animated, I think people would go see it, right?
I think if Disney made just any 2D animated movies that people
as like a nostalgia
to the theaters.
Yeah, because at this point, like they've moved from 2D to 3D, but I think people are kind of getting tired of the 3D, and like if they went back to 2D, I think it would work.
I mean, didn't Boy and the Heron win Best Animated last year?
Yeah, but I don't think it was that popular.
Well, yeah, but still, that's 2D hand-drawn animation, and it looks incredible. It's beautiful. Every frame of that movie is a work of art. So,
it's a shame. I don't know how we got in this tangent, but
I don't know. That's the moral of this Wicked review: is that there should be more hand-drawn animated films.
Yes.
In conclusion, what are your final thoughts on Wicked Part 1?
I would say good, not great. About as good of an adaptation as you could have of this musical, but at the same time, the musical is so good to begin with that like I don't think this adds that much to that.
Okay.
Like I've seen the musical, I've seen the movie. I don't think the movie is like substantially improving the musical. It's a good rendition of it. I enjoyed myself, but at the end of the day, it's almost like a live action remake type of thing. Like the Disney live action remakes. But I think this is exposing a lot of people to the material that have not seen the play. So for that, I'm very happy because it is a great musical.
Well, I mean, it's way cheaper to go see a movie than it is to
right.
musicals. Right. And they're running it in 4,000 theaters across the country instead of a select couple places, New York, LA, or whatever. So, my final thoughts: good, well executed in certain spots. I'm not a musical person, so not my thing. But there were, I saw it on a Tuesday night, and it was packed. The theater was completely full, and people were crying on the way out.
Yeah,
people were applauding after the songs. People really seem to love it. And I love it.
Defying Gravity hits, it just like home run.
Yeah, total grand slam. It's fantastic. And it sends people home happy. And, that's what the movies are for.
Yeah.
So I love that people loved it. And I'm curious to see where part 2 goes and to see how it does in Oscar contention this year. But I guess that's going to wrap things up for this video here. If you saw Wicked Part 1, drop us a comment below right down here. Let us know what you thought. We will respond to everyone that comes through. Like the video so more people see it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and click that notifications bell so you don't miss anything new. who knows what we're going to talk about next? All I want to talk about is Nosferatu, but it hasn't come out yet.
That's true.
So that's very exciting. It will be coming soon. We'll probably talk a little more Skeleton Crew as it comes along, and then anything Shane and I see that we don't watch together, we'll put out a little short review for it over on the short side of the channel. So thanks for watching this video, and we will see you guys in the next one.